Hi there, everyone. My name's Anthony Jones. I'm an agency development manager here at Google. I'm here to talk to you today about what I'd wish I'd known when I worked in agencies. I've been at Google for just under 18 months. Before that, I started off my career in a search performance agency at Jellyfish, and then later moved to Group M in London and to Mindshare. And I think when I started in sort of marketing and advertising, my perception beforehand was that it was a job about people and human emotion and motivation. And that was working in a paid search agency, sort of panel beat anatomy pretty quickly. The reality being that my day job looks something a little bit more like this. So quite quickly I got to grips with the data, really viewed myself as the search expert in the agency, thought that I knew search better than anyone else, better than our Google reps did. I was on every available beta. I was writing on the company blog. And really, what I then found is that moving to Google was then a natural progression for me. I was there, loved search, so coming to the home of search felt like the natural thing to do. I loved data, and I felt like coming to the company that had the most available data in the world would be a good move. And when I got to Google, I found that, broadly speaking, things were as I suspected, in some ways more so than others. So there, I do find myself walking down the corridor occasionally and seeing someone sort of asleep in a hammock, or people working from a massage chair, or going past me on a scooter. But what I have found is that I'm useful to the agencies that I work with in different ways. They don't really care about my search expertise. They're not interested in my opinion on their campaign structure or how they implement RLSA. They ask me different kind of questions. They want different types of information from me. And I've got an interesting job now in that I look after a group of agencies, so I have this sort of bird's eye view of lots of different agencies, so get the opportunity to look at different characters and different methodology and process and ways of doing things. And what I've found, something that is consistent across the board, is the way that agencies tend to undersell themselves. I look back to my own time in agencies and think about the opportunities we missed due to the way that we allowed our clients to perceive us and due to the way that we positioned ourselves to our clients. What I really found is that it took me to leave an agency and move to Google to really understand the value that an agency can bring. And it took me to come to the home of data to actually realize that it's not actually about the data, and that's not what people find useful in what I do now. So really this boils down to three things and three key statements which I could have said to myself when I started my career back in agencies. So it's not about the numbers, it's about the people. It's not big data, but big analytics. And it's not the point of purchase, but it's the path to purchase. So I'm going to run through each of these, starting off with the first one there. It's not about numbers, it's about people. I think if you work in paid search or digital marketing, broadly speaking, you'll have had an interaction something like this. If you say that you work in paid search, you still try and describe it in slightly creative language, and then eventually the penny drops, and people say, so you put the paid ads at the top of search results. Yeah. So similar thing happened with my girlfriend's dad. So AJ's got a job at Google, great. My computer's been playing up. Can you get him to have a look next time you're down? Working for Google does not mean that I know how to fix computers. We had this pretty embarrassing interaction of going down, sort of Control-Alt-Delete, unplug at the wall, back in again. It was pretty embarrassing. He had to just go take it to the shop. But really what this is showing us that it's not really a problem of ignorance, it's a problem of preconception and what he thought a job in digital means and is. And as I said at the start, I've always viewed it as a job about humans and human motivation, and I've found that since I've come back or come to work for Google. We've talked a lot about how the industry has changed. You've heard a lot over the last day and a half about mobile and video and Loon and the rise of programmatic and finding the humanity behind the data. And how do your agencies, your clients, perceive you as agencies? Do they think of you as the people who can find the human stories behind the data, show them the truths and the analysis, remove the incremental and the incidental, and actually show them something that can be transformative? If you want to be an agency of the future and partner with businesses of the future, it's really key to start to find these stories and reveal them to your clients. I see a lot of agencies and speak to sort of people who have a job title of pay-per-click account manager, paid search account executive, paid search strategist, if you're a genuine business partner to your clients, then that title isn't really in any way descriptive of the job function the people in your agencies are doing. If you're finding these human stories, then really they're sort of trainee, junior marketing analysts or human behavioral scientists or something along those lines. So here's a story about measuring people. Can anyone shout out to me? Who's that? Very good. A few Dutchmen here. This is furious Dutch defender Jaap Stam. So Jaap Stam played for Man United for a lot of his career. And in the year 2000, Man United and their manager Alex Ferguson sold Jaap Stam to the Italian club Lazio. And at the time, those people who know about these things said, what are you doing? It's a crazy decision. You've just won the treble. He's the best defender in the world. Why on earth would you sell him now? He's your most valuable player. And it later transpired that Man United decided to analyse the data and the figures. They thought they were being clever. They'd actually spotted a trend. They started to measure the number of effective tackles each one of their defenders made in every game. And they'd seen that the number of effective tackles that Jaap Stam was making was declining. So he's starting to tackle fewer players per game. They took that as a sign that his ability as a footballer was declining. So they chose to sell him at a point at which the market at large, they thought, overvalued him. It's viewed as the biggest transfer mistake of Alex Ferguson's career. Jaap Stam went on to play for another 6 years, the top league for Lazio and AC Milan and Ajax. How about this guy? I heard of Paolo Maldini over there. Yes, Johnny Depp lookalike, Paolo Maldini. So Paolo Maldini played for AC Milan in Italy, top division in Italy, until 2009, by which time he was 41. So 41, so a far longer professional career than is typical for a professional footballer. But the really interesting stat is in the last 5 years of Paolo Maldini's career, he averaged one effective tackle every 2 games. So he's a defender, top league in Italy and for Italy. He averaged one tackle every 2 games. So if we're going to use Alex Ferguson's measure and Man United's measure, then you'd say, clearly they're wasting their time. He's not a very good defender. He never tackles anyone. They should have sold him years before. But actually, AC Milan and the manager Carlo Ancelotti were measuring different things. They were looking at the position Paolo Maldini took up on the pitch. They were looking at the number of interceptions that he made. And they found that when Paolo Maldini was playing, the people he was marking didn't get the ball so often. And what that meant is that he didn't have to make any effective tackles, which meant that he didn't get injured as often, which meant that he could play until 2009 when he was 41, and AC Milan could get far more value out of him. So that might sound like a fairly abstract analogy, but how many of us can relate to that in our own work context? Switching off keywords because you're not seeing last-click conversions, testing the GDN or YouTube and switching it off because you're not seeing the immediate result that you expect or you hope to see. And really the point is that this sort of attribution and this kind of measurement can't be the thing that you sort of clutch at as a last straw. When the performance doesn't work as you'd hoped, you sort of try and retrospectively apply some attribution and better measurement to it. And how do your clients view you as an agency? Are you the data guys just looking to drive down cost per click and increase quality score like I was? Or do they view you as business partners who can tell them a human story about how the various different elements work together? If they measure you, if you present your results in the way that Man United measure Jaap Stam, in a very linear way, that's all they're going to think you can provide for them. Whereas if you measure, like AC Milan measures Paolo Maldini, then you'll be able to paint the bigger picture, show your genuine strategic value and a longer-term value, so at the point at which conversions might stop from a particular source, they don't think to transfer you and go to someone else. So here's an example which is maybe related a bit more. So this is a search for mortgages in the UK. So you can see here, lots of advertisers, would be a high cost per click, very difficult to stand out. Makes total sense. Logical for a bank or a building society or a mortgage provider to want to appear for this term. But if we start to humanize it and think about the actual process someone goes through before they apply for a mortgage, how about these 2 examples? So you've got where's the best place to live in the UK? Which town has the best schools in the UK? Just 2 examples I plucked, but surely if we think about how people go about that process and how you would start your journey in the 3, 6, 12, 24 months before you're at the point of taking out a mortgage, surely these are valuable searches. No competitors, would be relatively easy to own for an advertiser point of view. And really, it's the key is finding those human stories, showing your clients that you are the partner that can measure this first interaction and tie it all the way through to the point at which someone submits a lead or converts. So the second point was it's not about big data, it's about big analytics. So that keyword isn't working. In my own career in search and agencies, and I'm sure some people in this room as well, you'd have said this to yourself, had clients say it to you, and thought about this keyword isn't working. And it seems such a crazy thing to say. These are humans voluntarily typing in a question into an anonymous machine of their own volition. If this is a keyword that's broadly speaking in the sector that your businesses are in, then why shouldn't you appear here? I would suggest this is actually a failure of analysis. It's a failure of reporting, and it's a failure of storytelling and analytics that leads to this kind of thing. And again, how many of us have trialed GDN, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and switched it off after a week and said to ourselves, that media spend doesn't work? If you want to be a genuine business partner for your clients, it's about finding these stories and analysing them in the right way. So this is the fairly standard marketing funnel, and the see, think, do, care narrative is Google's sort of way of looking at that. So C being brand awareness, consideration, action, and then our sort of lifetime value at the bottom. And I'd suggest my own experience in agencies, whether a search agency or in a digital performance department within a managed agency, a media agency, is that we're experts and perceived as being experts in this yellow bit, the bit at the bottom. And there was a point yesterday when one of the clients from Nestlé was up here, and one of the questions from the crowd was, from the audience was, it's all very well measuring brand, but actually that's just the easy bit to measure. If you don't have to measure performance, then it's easy, you can do anything. It's just reach, it's just impressions. But actually I'd suggest that for everyone in this room, those are the difficult bits to measure. You're good at measuring the conversion, the lead submission, in some cases the phone call. But we've got to move beyond that in order to be effective. But really where it will fall down is that if we are trying to create brand awareness in a digital environment or consideration in a digital environment, we can't measure those by the yellow do conversion metrics. You're setting yourself up to fail if you're going to look at YouTube or GDN or even certain generic keywords, even best place to live in the UK. That's clearly a sort of consideration-y kind of think search. But if you try and measure it like a conversion, like a do piece of media, then it's never going to work. You're never going to be able to tell that story. But actually, you are best placed to do this. In this room, we have digital performance experts who are used to analysing that measurement data, that point of conversion data. You've got a huge amount of insights into actual conversion behaviour of clients, who those people are, trends, search query reports. Your teams, sitting back in your offices right now, the junior people in your teams are using this data every single day. But are you passing it up the chain to influence that brand awareness and that consideration? Because in my own experience, it's far easier to take the insight from the bit that you measure well and that's converting and feeding that up than it is to take the brand awareness stuff and feed it down. And actually, that's the challenge that has always existed in advertising. Doing your big TV campaign or your press or your out-of-home campaign, and then 50% of my marketing spend is lost. I just don't know which half. It's because you can't transfer the analysis down. But I honestly believe that in this room, you have teams that are best placed to make that connection. So I think we've all seen reports that go like this. I have a quite interesting job in that I go and see lots of agencies, and I'll talk to them about measurement and attribution and what we can do, and everyone always nods along. It's like, yeah, I get it. And I tell them to subscribe to Avinash Kaushik's blog, and everyone says that attribution is something they do, that it's a pillar of their agency, and it's something that they live by and do every day. The other part of my job is that I often go to three-way client meetings. So I'll go along and be the sort of wheeled-in Google expert for certain clients. And I see this kind of thing more often than I should. Fair enough, slightly jazzier versions and nicer looking versions. But are you practicing what you preach? Are you empowering the junior people in your agency to tell digital stories, or are you falling back into the traps of looking at the lowest common denominator? We would talk a lot about living in a mobile-first world. How many of the weekly reports or monthly reports or quarterly reports that you send to your clients have actually changed in the last 5 years? If we talk about being mobile first, how many of them actually look at mobile first as the first thing that you look at? I would suggest not enough. So it's not about the point of purchase, it's the path to purchase. So you've heard Shane Nolan show yesterday the micro moments narrative and Google's way of viewing it. And it is these human stories that start to bring us the richest data. Most of the agencies in this room have probably been in existence for sort of up to 15 years maybe. And the reason that the agencies were started is because the behavioral shift was that people started to buy stuff online. People went on the internet to buy something or find out a piece of information at the point of need. It was transactional. But as we've mentioned yesterday, we don't just go online, we now live online. So clearly, the way that we structure our agencies need to change. How many of the reporting metrics, the way you position yourselves, have really changed to embrace this new reality over the last 5 or 10 years? And it's those moments that can really provide the rich data, can find the tensions and the truths and the real motivations for customers of your clients. And it doesn't necessarily have to be super complicated attribution models. It can be looking at mobile first, brand volume over time, time spent on sites, first click and last click attribution, but actually just starting to have the conversation will help you become a genuine business partner for your clients and be the partner of the future. And the tools there, as I mentioned before, the junior people within your agencies are using a lot of this data every day, but they almost don't know they're doing it. They're looking at this real human intent and behavior, but because they're constrained by a performance label, they don't think of it as actual marketing. They just think of it as data analysis. How are you selling your services to your clients? Are you business partners, or are you just there to drive down cost per click and increase quality score? So I mentioned before that I moved from a search performance agency to Mindshare, to a media agency in London. And this is, broadly speaking, the sort of framework we would use when thinking about our advertising. So I'd go from the sort of brief concept stage and all the way through in various different departments and teams and individuals get involved as we go through. And that would really be the sort of research, insight, media agencies, research agencies, slightly sort of nebulous consultants that no one was sure what they did, at the top and at that point of the chain. And it was only as we got down to that delivery phase and the deployment phase and the evaluation phase that the search agencies or even the search department would start to get involved. But what's really struck me since I joined Google is that actually the power in this relationship is probably the wrong way around. So it used to be that advertising was all about the big idea and then you would gradually go through, and now the data is used at the top, but it's not necessarily being delivered by the right teams and the right people. Why shouldn't you sell that data, that research, that analytical insights to your clients instead of using a research agency or a media agency or a marketing consultant? Why can't you genuinely be through the line with your clients and be there from concept through to delivery? I would imagine that every agency represented today probably has something in your About Us section about wanting to be viewed as a genuine extension of your client's marketing department or wanting to be a strategic business partner for your clients. But are you practicing what you preach? Are you using that data you've got to be genuinely or have a genuine partnership and really talk to them about the right things in the right way and show them your value? If you're falling back into the old habits of just presenting spreadsheets of data, measuring everything by the lowest common denominator, bringing everything back to what you're comfortable with, your conversions and your CPA, then they don't know that you do it. They don't know to invite you because you never tell them. But it's got to be a cultural thing within an agency. It's got to be empowering your teams to look beyond paid search analysis and convincing them that they're marketers and that they actually have the right to tell these stories to clients and show them a longer-term strategic value. So I think those businesses of the future, both agencies and clients, will be the ones that embrace that new reality, a lot of what we've talked about over the last day and a half. And I think a lot of our marketing and advertising really endeavours to look at what people do rather than why they did it. I think in this room we've got a lot of agencies that can start to really add some context and some meat to that why question, provide greater depth of insight and analysis to your clients, and become a genuine strategic business partner. So the three things that I would want to tell myself if I started my career in an agency again: it's not about the numbers, it's about people. It's best place to live in the UK, not mortgages. It's measuring like they measured Paolo Maldini, not like Man United measured Jaap Stam. It's not big data, it's big analytics. It's taking what you're good at, analysing the do part of that funnel, and applying that same discipline and methodology to different metrics beyond the conversion. And it's not about the point of purchase, it's about the path to purchase. Remove the incidental and the incremental, find the elements of that that will be genuinely transformative for your clients, and that's what will help you become their strategic business partner going forwards. Thank you very much.